What's up, y'all? It's your boy Dap Dario up in the building. I got a very special guest. He's an entrepreneur, CEO, record producer. Give it up for Mr. Kidd Kluth Productions. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, Daniel.
Alright, that's good. I'm good. That's good, brother. So today, we've been do a recap about a great man. He a leader, school producer. We're gonna talk about the King Kong consciousness. Big Papa, Dr. Umar Johnson. Let's get into it. Hey, Black Evolution. Alright, so let's get into it, man. We're gonna talk about Dr. Umar Johnson and the Breakfast Club interview he had. But basically, we're gonna do a recap on certain topics. Tyler, before we get into that though, Mr. Kidd Kluth, what is your initial thoughts on Dr. Umar Johnson as a whole?
Well, I'll say this about Dr. Umar. I agree with Dr. Umar on a lot of things, but there's other things too I don't agree with him on. But I always think he gives great conversation. He provides great conversation, and he's good with interviews because he's very intellectual, and he's very personable. The way that he speaks about certain topics is like he brings them to light. And he doesn't just talk about the broad topics, he goes in depth. And I think that's where a lot of people are missing on the conversations that we want to have. And that's why I think what makes this podcast unique too. With you allow people to have in-depth conversation. And I think Umar Johnson, every time you have to listen to Dr. Umar's interviews, is always enlightening. It's like you learn something that you didn't know before, and then some of it is review, but it's you never left bored, you never left feeling like you wasted your time listening to the interview. He's like, it's like you're going to class, and actually real class, not just something that's lectures and stuff. He's talking to you, and that's what I like. He's not talking at people, he's talking to them. And I think the interview that he gave yesterday with the Breakfast Club, I think that may have been his best interview, hands down, because the knowledge that he grown to these topics that are being talked about, a lot of the stuff we talked about throughout this season, and most of the interview he talked about stuff that we talked about in last week's podcast interview. So this is more of a review on what's to come from what we talked about last week. So we're just touching the bases on what Dr. Umar did. This is a recap, and I think tune into this interview, listen, you're gonna learn some stuff. You won't be disappointed. That's what I have to say about it.
Yeah, so when it comes to Dr. Umar Johnson, I have this to say about him. Great speaker. One of the most articulate black men that I've ever listened to and come across. The only part I disagree with him on some areas is his school and how he manages the funds and everything. It don't take 6 years to build a school, brother. I'm sorry, it don't. But as far as the knowledge he brings, he's very intellectual, very knowledgeable, has great information. I just think he's not a very good businessman. That's all of my thoughts about him. But every time I do listen to him speak, he speaks with such grace and such articulate nature that you can't deny this brother is very intelligent and he has knowledge. So let's get into the clips of hearing Dr. Umar Johnson speak about certain issues. The first clip I'm going to have y'all wonderful listeners listen to is him talking about the race between Warnock and Herschel Walker and his thoughts about it. So let's get into it, and then we're going to come back and give our thoughts on that clip. So without further ado, let's roll the clip.
especially with the GOP. You saw that in Georgia, right? They didn't care if Herschel Walker was a terrible candidate. They knew that if he got into the Senate, he was going to do the bidding of the GOP.
Who won the runoff?
Warnock.
Warnock won.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to say to that. And my maternal ancestry is from Georgia. It didn't make a difference if Warnock won. It didn't make a difference if Herschel Walker won. Because both of them are candidates who are aligned with two white racist political parties. The Democratic Party don't care about black people. The Republican Party don't care about black people. Raphael Warnock hasn't done nothing his first term. He's not going to do nothing his second term. And if Herschel Walker would have won, it would have been the same thing. One of the things we have to do as black people, we have to get off this Republican-Democratic political dichotomy because it does not serve us and it wasn't created for our interests. That is a white intellectual conversation, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. Our dichotomy is not democracy or republicanism. Our dichotomy is freedom or oppression. That's the black dichotomy. Who belongs to the Freedom Party? Who belongs to the House Negro Party? That's it. Look at the Congressional Black Caucus. 59 African Americans, and more than half of them are old enough to be your grandparents. Why do we have people in the CBC in their 70s, in their 80s, in their 60s? Don't get me wrong. In African culture, we believe an old man for counsel and a young man for war. But look who we got in D.C. fighting for justice for African people. They're senior citizens. And we wonder why nothing's getting done because they don't want to pass the baton. And this is an issue that we have had in the black community for a long time. Not just Congressional Black Caucus, Black Church, Black Community Organization, where we don't want to pass the baton to the next generation. And why not? Black men and women are seldom given an opportunity to experience real power. So when we get a taste of real power, we don't like to give it up because we're not used to it. That's why you got 100-year-old pastors running churches when you got 20 and 30-year-old young pastors in the same congregation who will never get a chance to give a sermon.
So, Mr. Kidd Kluth, what are your overall thoughts on what Dr. Umar Johnson just said about Warnock and the political party as a whole and black people's dichotomy?
Well, I agree with Dr. Umar on the part where he said we shouldn't be loyal and attached to parties. Because he does have a point on that. Because I think over the last 50 or 60 years, that's been really the downfall of our community. Is that we've been loyal to the Democrat Party. And we have kind of just kept voting Democrat, but it hasn't gotten us far from an economical standpoint, as I always say. And from even a standpoint as far as intellectual, because we're losing resources each time. We're losing rights under the Democrats. And we're losing our way. And I think that's what Dr. Umar is trying to get at, is that we have to become more self-sufficient. And also what he's saying is truth. Both parties have their own agendas. So what he's saying is stuff won't diametrically change because both parties are ran by older white supremacists. But here's what I have to push back on Dr. Umar on. Is we have where he says the Democrat Party doesn't do anything for black people. They haven't done much, but they have done something. I've always said it's not what they've done is not enough, and that's one of the things I have to disagree with him on. But most of it I agree with him on that part. And also, like he said, we have to get more younger leaders involved in that political process in the Congressional Black Caucus and in Congress, because that's the downfall of us too. Because we have people that really, they're kind of out of touch with our issues now, so they're so far gone from it. They're still living in the 70s or the 80s. If you look at it from where they see it, they're saying, well, look at how far we came. We're in Congress now. We formed a Congressional Black Caucus. We had a black president. Look how much progress we made. And I think this is one of those conversations you have to say, the way they look at it is judge the man by the distance traveled and not judge the man by his results. And I think that's where they're stuck at. They're looking at how far they've come from when they was children and how much rights they've gotten and how much status they achieved, but they're not looking on the overall majority of black people and interests. So they see it as a big step, as if they arrive. And really, yeah, you have gained some power, but you haven't gained the ultimate power because you're not willing to give up that power and empower more young people to keep things going or move in another direction, to take things up to another level. And I think Umar is right about that, because we see that a lot in the black church. We see it a lot in black organizations, specifically civil rights organizations, nonprofits. We see it in, we even see it in certain black businesses that's left. And that's a problem, like you said. It has to be addressed. So that's all I have to say about that.
My thoughts on Dr. Umar Johnson and what he just said about Warnock and the political process as a whole is this. I agree with most of what he said, but I disagree with some of what he said. Now, what do I mean by that? When it comes to Warnock and the political process and everything, and about how it's not our dichotomy between a Republican and a Democrat. Our dichotomy is with freedom or oppression. I agree to some extent, but I disagree. When it comes to that, I will say that both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party do not have the interests of black folks in mind. This is why I advocate that black people need to have their own political party where we control everything. We control the interests and everything and the issues that go on within our community. In regards to what he said about the Black Caucus, I agree that, hey, the Black Caucus is out of touch and everything, and they need to do more in terms of speak to the actual people and get boots on the ground and actually speak to our current issues instead of being stuck in the 1970s or 60s, as you stated, Kidd Kluth, and how they need to currently talk to the people now instead of being stuck like, oh, we've arrived. We've come a long way. Now, I'm not taking anything from them. Kudos to you. You did what you had to do to get where you are, and now you're in a position of power. But this is the part where I agree with Dr. Umar Johnson on when people get in this position of power, they don't want to lose it. And so I feel like that's part of the issue where it comes to the Black Caucus. When they've gotten political power and everything, they don't want to lose it. So they feel like oh, I don't need to do nothing. I got me in mind, as some people would say. Instead of thinking about the collective, they're thinking about themselves as individuals. Instead of thinking about the black collective, they're thinking about themselves, where they're like saying that, oh, I got me in mind. Because you have some black people that have this, the older black people that have this mentality of, I got to get me in mind, go get yours. I don't care about the next generation. And that's a problem within our community. We need to put a stop to that. We need to care about the next generation and pass things on to the next generation. Because you're going to die soon. You're going to die. Everybody dies. So all your ideas, your dreams and ambitions, you can teach that to the next generation. Pass on your what you want, and everything to the next generation. I'm not saying not have the next generation have any dreams, but I'm saying is pass all things on to the next generation. Pass good things on to the next generation. Wealth, status and everything. That way they won't have to go through what you went through. That's my thoughts on the whole Warnock clip, and as well as the topics that Umar Johnson stated in regards to the Black Caucus and everything. And like I said before, overall, Dr. Umar Johnson is a great speaker, but there's some things that we disagree on with him on and everything. And the next topic we're going to cover is about the reparations clip. So before we get into that, Mr. Kidd Kluth, what are your thoughts on reparations topic?
My thoughts on reparations is always that people, when they think of reparations, they always think about it from a monetary standpoint. But like I've always said, in previous episodes is that reparations is more than just monetary. I call it a movement of the different steps to financial freedom and wealth and freedom in general in America. And I've always said is you got to think about education, economics, social, innovation, and community. That's how I've always seen it. It's not, black people are not a monolith, and I think our issues are not a monolith. We all go through similar issues, but we all have our different issues. Because people don't, what's going on too, I think people are not recognizing the different classes of black people as if they have done for the white society. And I think that's another thing that's a downfall too, because we don't have enough people at the table speaking on our behalf with reparations. And that's always been my problem with Congress when addressing these things. They don't put the right people at the table when discussing this. And Dr. Umar, he's going to discuss some of the same things we've been talking about the last couple of weeks on reparations. And I think with regards to reparations, if we're going to get something done, we got to have a serious conversation about it. We can't just keep having these rallies saying, yeah, no reparations, no vote. We want our reparations, pay us our money, because we're seeing what's going on. The reparations now, what we're seeing is going on in California, is looking like, I'm going to just say, it looks like it's a bribe, but that's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to spoil the interview for what Dr. Umar touched up on it.
My thoughts on the reparations thing is this. I agree with reparations that we need it, but it's not just, it doesn't just end with just cash payments. You can have cash payments, but if you can't manage the money, if you can't manage anything, you're not going to get nothing. You're going to lose that all within a week, 2 weeks, tops, if you don't manage anything. That's just my quick thoughts on the whole reparations issue. Let's hear what the great Dr. Umar Johnson, the Prince of Pan-Africanism, King Kong Consciousness, Big Papa, Ifa Tunde, has to say on the reparations issue.
To see and determine, who gets reparations and how much reparations.
Well, let's take it a step further. The state of California legislature just approved in the past few days a bill that will give each African American in the state of California $233,000 as a reparations payment.
I think that's some bullshit. I think Gavin Newsom is just doing that because reparations is going to be the buzzword for 2024 to get black people energized.
It is, and it's also a trap. Now, first of all, the reparations movement comes out of the Pan-Africanist movement. We gave birth to reparations. It's not anything new. That's our thing, although it's for the whole people. A cash payout for reparations is a trap. And the reason a cash payout for reparations is a trap is because so much of what needs to be fixed in American society for African people will take more than cash to do it. In other words, I give DJ Injury $233,000. Or if I take the Bob Johnson plan, he said each American African is due $350,000, right? I give you $350,000. Does that stop mass incarceration?
Nope.
Does that stop miseducation? Does that stop gentrification? Does that stop police genocide? Does that guarantee us access to wealth? I mean, in the state of California, what can you get with $233,000? I'm not even sure if that's enough for a house. And on top of that, the minute they give you the payment, they can reduce the value of the payment through inflation. So I can flood the economy with money so the 233 is only worth 120 in about 24 hours. And then guess what they're going to do after they give the reparations to African people? They're going to find subsidy programs to give to the LGBTQ, to the women, to immigrants, to other people. So at the end of the day, what looked like a step up for black people would be a step back. If I was in charge of the reparations conversation, number one, control of all black music must only be done through the black community. No non-African can control our music. Prince, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Biggie, Tupac. If the publishing, if the marketing, if the promotion, if the recording is not controlled by black people, that has to change. We own our own music. Nobody can own, sell, produce, publish, promote black music but black people.
Why is that so important?
Because music is one of America's leading export industries. America makes more money off black music than almost anything else that she sells. So if we control the music, we have a steady stream of global revenue where we can build a black Wall Street in every single city in America for black people. That's how much money will be coming in from black music. That's one. Two, all black inventions return to us permanently. Everything we invented is a permanent patent for Africans. And if you want to use it, you must pay us a percentage. The cell phone, we invented that. Internet, that's ours. Helicopter, that's ours. Self-lubricating engine, the microphone, the stop sign, the walkie-talkie. Why are those lights on right now? Because a black man named Lewis Latimer wrote a textbook that taught China, the UK, Canada, and America how to light up a whole city at night. Without Lewis Latimer, you don't get street lights at night. You don't get constant...
All right. So, Mr. Kidd Kluth, what are your thoughts on what Dr. Umar Johnson had to say about reparations and the whole discussion?
Well, I can't really disagree with him on anything on this one. I agree with all the stuff he said about reparations because, as I just said earlier, reparations is not just monetarily. It's educational. It's from a social and societal standpoint. It's a community standpoint. And one thing I left out, too, was the mass incarceration problem. That, too. And also, what I need to put in there, too, is trauma that has occurred from the black community for many generations. That needs to be put in there because what Dr. Umar was hitting on is that we don't need to just be paid for what was taken from us. We need to be paid for the trauma that's occurred and that's currently occurring. And we need to be taken seriously. We need to get our stuff together as far as from a social standpoint. Like he said, we have police brutality. We have different things going on. What he's saying is the only way reparations works is if we get our full equality from that. People keep thinking that it's just money. And like he's saying, that money doesn't have really a value now because it's not really backed by real currency now. As you see now, you got cryptocurrency, you got Bitcoin, you even got that stuff they took on Forex. That stuff depreciates all the time in value because we don't have a steady stream of currency. And now, like you said, you could just flood the economy with money and that would create an inflation problem to where that money wouldn't mean anything that they would give to us. So what has to happen is we need a multi-trillion-dollar investment into the black community as a whole and into black Americans too, because we're behind. If you look at all these other communities, they got ahead because a lot of stuff is invested. And it shouldn't just be our generation, it should be multi-generations benefiting from it and still receiving the reparations. And that means we need to build hospitals. We need to build black banks. We need to build different credit unions. We need to build tech companies, like I said, record companies. We need even science, math and science. America swears that they always so interested in math and science. We need to build some labs and stuff for black scientists, and we need to put that in the schools earlier. And also, we need to teach them about real estate. Because we rarely hear about that in black colleges and other black institutions. And we need to talk about also, too, black restaurants. They need to be invested in more. And what Umar said is smart. Now, what Dr. Umar said is that the publishing, we need to receive multi-lifetimes, multi-generations worth of publishing, that we have ownership of that. We have ownership of masters. And we also, with something he left out too, I think we need to get licensing deals for different companies as far as real estate. Because if you look at the NFL stadiums, a lot of these white guys, they're buying these NFL teams and stuff off of licensing. They're getting loans to buy these teams, and they're putting a certain amount of money down, and the rest of it, the sponsors and the partnerships they get from these licensing deals pay for the stadium and all that. Because you ever see the Cowboys, you see AT&T Stadium, the Lakers, they just recently changed their arena to Crypto.com arena. It used to be Staples Center. That means there's a lot of these companies you see that put their names on it. Those are licensing deals. So they pay a lot of money out to these teams and these buildings to put their name on it. And also too, they receive a lot of money for allowing that to use their name. That's marketing and promotion. We need more of that. We need more marketing companies that's black. We need more gun suppliers that's black. We need everything. It's like Umar was saying. There's so many things that we probably left out that we're going to have to keep talking about over time that's being left out. But that's just a few of the topics that he talked about with regards to that.
I agree with Dr. Umar Johnson on everything he said about the reparations topic. How it can't just be about cash payments. How it could be a trap, because if you can't manage the money, as I stated earlier, you're not going to be able to have the reparations be lasting long. You need to have built institutions. Get basically what he said about the producing and music producing. We're number one in terms of music, and we sell music, so we need to have control over the publishing, control over the rights, control over everything, all black inventions and what have you. And just take control of our own destiny and what we invented and what we built. That's how we can truly get reparations. That's how we can truly get back on our feet. And like you said, Mr. Kidd Kluth, about the trauma. There's the trauma that we've been through. There's PTSD, no therapy when it comes to the black community. It's just a lot of times we're trying to, say, oh, we don't need therapy and stuff. And that's not true. We need some therapy. We've been through some stuff, trials and tribulations that we need to talk about. And we need to go get the help that we need. So that's also going to be part of the reparations discussion. Not just about the money, but about managing the institutions, managing the finances and everything, and taking control of our inventions. Now, the next topic we're going to talk about is TJ Holmes and workplace relationships. Mr. Kidd Kluth, what are your thoughts on those situation with TJ Holmes? What's going on with him?
My thoughts on that is that what I'm seeing now is what needs to be spoken out on is they're trying to emasculate him. That's what ABC is doing. They're trying to emasculate this man. Rather than just firing him or just keeping him on suspension, they're going to try to drive his name through the mud. And think about this too. I keep hearing about TJ Holmes, but nobody's saying anything about Amy Robach. I hear crickets with that. And it's going the way that most of us thought it would go. They're going to pin this all on him. They're going to turn it into a Me Too situation, but also they're going to turn it into a situation on morality. You're going to see a lot of self-righteous people come out saying, oh, this is bad for the black community. This is bad for TJ. We thought he was an upstanding black man. We thought he was upstanding. We thought he was just, we didn't expect that from him. And we also heard, too, that they put out there is that TJ was hard to work with. We never heard that before, but now all of a sudden that's being put out there. We're seeing that stuff go little by little. And they're doing that because they want to desensitize the situation, and they want you to become this I can't find a word right now, but it's
It's all right, bro. Speak your mind. Speak your mind. Come on.
They want you to be numb to the situation, really. That's what it is. And they want to normalize what's going on to him because they're putting it as a sign to other black men, heterosexual black men. If you cross us, if you mess with our women, this is what could happen to you. And basically, I'm just gonna say it. This is a public lynching of a black man. Yes, he was wrong for messing with married woman, and he messed with another married woman allegedly. But why are you trying to emasculate him? Why are you trying to take all his dignity away from him? Just fire him or keep him. But I don't think it's going to end well. Like I said last week. And all I'm going to say, get your popcorn ready and see what happens. But we got to stand behind T.J. Holmes. Yeah, he made a mistake, but we want them to give the smoke to Amy too. Y'all can give him the smoke, give it to her. And this is what we talked about a few episodes ago about how this toxic feminist society has become, where a woman can't be held accountable for cheating on her husband, but a man gets demonized, especially with black men. They're gonna make him take the fall and throw him under the bus. But what happens to her? This is what I think is gonna happen. I think they're gonna end up firing TJ at some point. But Amy, they're gonna bring her back like nothing happened. And I think we need to watch out for that because they're sending a message. And it's the same thing I said about with Kyrie Irving, what they did with him. Even though I didn't agree with Kyrie did, but what they tried to do was make him as an example, saying if you cross us, if you speak out of term, we're gonna take your free speech, black men. If you have anything to say, we're gonna shut you down. We're gonna cancel you. We're gonna make an example out of you, and we can't let that happen. And this is what I keep talking about. And people have looked at me crazy when I said it. Masculinity is under attack, specifically black masculinity, and we can't sit by and let it happen. All these people that keep on saying they stand for this and that, they pro-black. Where the hell are you? I don't see none of y'all going out here saying we got to stop this mess. I don't see none of y'all getting out here saying black women need to go out and defend this. I don't see none of y'all getting out here saying white people, y'all need to stand out here and defend this too. Because I see all these women, black, white, all this defending feminism, but I don't see any men out here defending masculinity. You may not agree with what happened, you may not like what happened, but we got to defend it. What's going on is a public lynching. We got to stop this mess. And that's my thoughts on this one for right now.
Wow, that's very passionate, Mr. Kidd Kluth, and I couldn't agree with you more. This is an attack. I've studied with T.J. Holmes and everything else, and it's just like I've seen with this whole situation that there's a lot of blowback, a lot of pushback when it comes to T.J. Holmes, but nobody's talking about the woman he was with, Amy, whatever her name is, and it's disgraceful. You can't do this to one person, demonize and all this, and then not demonize the other person. Same thing would happen with Ime Ogadowa, the Celtics coach, where they demonized him, ridiculed him, suspended him. The woman, the married woman who cheated on her husband with that man, she slap on the wrist. Don't get talked about. Barely gets talked about. Like you said, Mr. Kidd Kluth, is a public lynching of black masculinity and specifically T.J. Holmes and black men. And black men, we need to come together. We need to stand together. Not just black men, but all men need to come together on this. Because black masculinity, or masculinity in general, is under attack. It is under attack. They are trying to destroy what it means to be masculine. They're trying to destroy black masculinity. Now let's hear what the great Dr. Umar Johnson has to say on his thoughts on T.J. Holmes. Let's hear from the great doctor.
I make no apologies about that because we got to save ourselves.
What's your thoughts on that since you said
No, let's go to Jerry. Let's stop you speeding now. Let's go to Jerry Jones first. And by the way, what Dr. Umar is saying, other communities say that and nobody has a problem
Nobody
with
says
it.
nothing.
Yeah.
Nobody says nothing.
Okay.
Ime Udoka and T.J. Holmes. First of all, what they did was wrong. You had no business having relations with another man's wife if, in fact, those women were married. It's wrong. Husband, white, black, purple is wrong. Adultery is wrong. But it's even more wrong because you chose to go outside your community and do it. It's even more wrong because you chose to go into the white power structure and do it. They were not chastised because they committed adultery. Celebrities do it all the time. They were not chastised for that. They were chastised because they failed to keep in mind that black men get the white women that other white men genuinely do not want. You don't get the top of the line white women. You don't. You get leftovers. Look at most of our celebrities. They did not marry women who came from the richest white families. Black money and white money don't behave the same. New black money and old white money have two totally different personalities. New black money will jump on any poor white girl and make her a billionaire, Tiger Woods. Rich white money doesn't operate that way. You see, the sin of Ime Udoka and the sin of T.J. Holmes is you had an affair with a white man's wife. This is a desirable white woman. Somebody loves her and is married to her, and you had the audacity to take her away from her husband being a Negro. That's why they had to be sat down. And if I could speak with Ime Udoka, I would have to ask him, on top of all that, you chose a woman from the Mormon church. Her family is Mormon. The Mormons historically are one of the most racist denominations of the Christian religion. Did you know they did not ordain black ministers until 1978? Their most famous leader, Brigham Young, he said the devil was black, and he also justified the enslavement of African people by way of the curse of Canaan. Ham was cursed for uncovering his father's nakedness, and as a result of that, curse be the firstborn, Canaan. So the Mormon church and Brigham Young and their other leaders said that black people's skin was black and our hair was nappy because of the curse of Canaan, and that justified our enslavement.
You think he thought about it that deep, or he was just probably hitting something? I don't think he was thinking about it that
But
deep.
here's my point. If you're going to sleep with a white woman, you don't go to the KKK and get one. You see? Look at the other brother, Everett, the young basketball player from Louisiana State University. June of this year, he visited his white girlfriend in Boise, Idaho. She takes him to a Mormon wedding. She should know better. They didn't let him in because he's black. Then he goes white water rafting with the snow bunny and 3 friends. They fall off the raft. Now, he's an athlete, 6 foot whatever. She's a white girl. She survives. He dies. Nobody looks for his body. It was a stranger who called the police and said he was missing. He turned up dead a couple days later. Another Mormon. Why did his parents let him go visit a white girl in Boise, Idaho? And why are you going to a Mormon wedding? And Ime Udoka, why are you sleeping with a Mormon woman? When you look at the history of the Mormon people, I'm not saying everyone, but structurally and systematically, they have been against black folks. So my goodness, if you're going to do it, find a liberal or something. You don't get a Mormon.
Well, Dr. Umar Johnson, he had a lot to say on that. Mr. Kidd Kluth, what are your thoughts on what Dr. Umar Johnson said in regards to interracial relationships and workplace relationship with T.J. Holmes and all that?
Well, I have to say I echo those sentiments that Dr. Umar had. And the reason why is because historically, we see what happens when black men are involved romantically or sexually with white women. It never really ends well. And what people fail to understand too, and we spoke about this off air many times, actually before we got on here too, is that typically you see white women that are poor or a lower class per se date black men that are either rich or poor, But you rarely see a black man with a white woman that's of high status that a white man desires, a high-class white man. And I've always wondered why that was. And Dr. Umar answered that because, like he said, these guys did, and it goes back to what we said on the other topic. Psychologically, they think any white woman that they get is a prize. If the white man says, well, I don't care if you get her. You can have her. I'm not going to fight you over her. But, oh, you get one I like. Oh, no, it's a problem. We're going to make sure you don't do it anymore. We're going to put you in your place. We're going to let you know that you're still a nigga. We're going to let you know that it's levels to this shit. It's difference between being a baller and a shot caller. It's the difference between it being the pimp and the hoe. And they going to show you. And really, at this point, they're showing TJ and Ime Adoka, we're the pimps and y'all the hoes. We running the shit. You come back to work when we tell you. You mess with the women that we want you to mess with. You don't mess with our women, not our high-priced prizes. So we got to put a nigga in his place. And that's what's going on. Like I said before, it's a public lynching. And also, we got to say with black guys, you got to get smarter with this. We can't keep on sacrificing over some pussy. And that's what it comes down to. And some white pussy. Because, historically, it hasn't ended well.
I mean, well, I agree with you on that, Mr. Kidd Kluth. I mean, I agree with you because historically it hasn't ended well. When it goes back to Emmett Till and all these other different massacres that happened of black boys over, messing with white women, historically it has not ended well. And that's why we got to be on edge when it comes to dealing with white women and everything and interracial relationships and stuff. And it's just, you don't do that. And on top of that, both of those men mess with workplace relationships. That's another thing you don't do. You don't sacrifice everything you work for. Like what you said, Mr. Kidd Kluth, for some pussy. Some white pussy. Like, come on, man. Don't do that. Don't sacrifice everything you worked for some pussy. This is just in general. Don't do that. Like, let's say you do mess with somebody at the job. Well, what's going to happen? Well, it could be the fallout. It's not even about the relationship. It's about the fallout. You don't do that. Mess with somebody at work. It's like, come on, man. If you want something, get you something after work or out of work, where it's a far removed from the job. It's just, we got to stop thinking with our little heads and start thinking with our big heads. Think with your brain, fools. That's just my thoughts on that situation. So the final topic we're going to discuss is Deion Sanders and what he did. For those who don't know, Deion Sanders was a coach of Jackson State University, or JSU, and he was a black coach and everything, and he went to that school, and he changed the school around, did programs, helped out the school, raised the school's profile up, and then after 3 years of being a coach there, he got up and left to Colorado University. A lot of people have been calling him a sellout, a coon, Uncle Tom, and everything. He's been getting flagged ever since. Recently, stuff's come out about the school and the management of the school and how they've run their business. That's what caused Deion Sanders to leave. So, Mr. Kidd Kluth, what are your thoughts on Deion Sanders and the whole situation as a whole?
When I heard this over the week, I got pissed off because this is what I talked about in last week's episode. People need to learn the difference between a sellout and a person that's just advancing. Because primetime Deion Sanders, if he's a sellout, I don't know who else isn't a sellout. because he hasn't ever showed in any kind of way that he's a sellout. Look at his record. This man, he started his own school, charter school, called Prime Prep Academy. And the people who not understand the story behind Prime Prep ended up closing because the mismanagement of the funds by the administration. And actually, Prime got into it at a board meeting with the administration over that because he was so mad at what they did to those kids. And he founded Prime Prep for black kids, specifically black boys, to get an opportunity at college, get an opportunity at getting to the NFL, get an opportunity at being prominent businessmen and leaders in the community. So it's like, how can you call him a sellout? I don't understand this. And Deion has always been pro-black. He's always been about his people. I don't understand it. The point of Deion, did Deion go to Jackson State to get a Power 5 head coaching job? Yes, he did. But that doesn't mean that he didn't care about those people at Jackson State. The man donated half of his salary to building up the school and building up the football program. Come on now. I didn't even watch HBCU football on TV till Prime got to Jackson State. Come on now. Except for probably like A&T or Central if they played. But other than that, and that was like a bowl game. But I didn't watch HBCU football because it wasn't exciting like that. I'm just going to put it out there. And it's not because the players didn't play hard enough. It's because of the resources, because they're not getting the same access that white universities are getting. Because the people in these that are running these universities, they're the ones that's selling out. Or some of them don't know what the hell they're doing. And some of them doing stuff they have no business doing. And that's Prime called it out. And people get mad saying, why you putting down the HBCUs? Yeah, we got a lot of bullshit going on with HBCUs. We got a lot of bullshit going on in our community. We keep on falling for the okie doke. Those that keep trying to help our community, we keep tearing them down, canceling them, and demonizing them. And those that are selling us the hell out, we keep clapping for their ass. We keep talking about, oh, they free thinkers. Oh, they woke. They're pro-black. They for the people. But they ain't nothing but race baiters and hustlers and scammers. But those that want to do something, we always tear them down. And this is why our community can't get anywhere, because those that are really trying to do something, you crucify them and you try to lynch them publicly. And then when the white man does something, people want to say, well, the white man is responsible for that. What about what the hell we doing? We got to take accountability for what's going on. And Jackson State is not exempt from any other HBCU. What Deion was doing was going against the grain. He was challenging Jackson State to do like these other universities, to invest in the kids, to invest in the school, to build up school pride. And I think that's what he's going to do at Colorado, too. And he also said he named the successor for Jackson State that he wanted, but they haven't made the pick yet. And he said he would continue to help Jackson State. So I don't know what the damn problem is. And he was offered $5 million. If y'all was offered $5 million, half of y'all asses would be clapping, jumping, shucking, and jiving, crawling, begging, pleading. You wouldn't have to say anything. You sell out. We wouldn't even have to sell you. Half of y'all, we give y'all $500,000. We give y'all $5,000. Y'all selling the hell out. So how the hell you gonna talk about Prime? He's not selling out. Isn't the point of being successful is that you're getting a promotion and you want to exceed to the next level? Prime did what he did. He brought the championship to Jackson State within 3 years, and he brought SWAC championships. That's their conference, the SWAC championships to Jackson State, and also he was named SWAC Coach of the Year, I think 2 or 3 years. And he brought name and recognition to HBCUs. College game day was at Jackson State. Come on now. When the hell have you ever seen college game day at an HBCU?
Never.
Never. And half of these people that talk about he's selling out and all this, you don't even watch college football, so how the hell will you know? And I have a problem too with what's being said. You got more people that are mad about Deion than that's mad about Brett Favre. Brett Favre stole from Mississippi. Deion brought money to Mississippi. But y'all calling him to sell out. Make this make sense. And Dr. Umar, I have to disagree with you on that.
But before we get into that, before you get into that, first let's hear what Dr. Umar Johnson has to say, and then we're going to get into why you disagree with that. But my thoughts on the Deion Sanders situation is this. With Deion, I understand why he left. He did what he had to do for that school. The man spent half his money getting the programs and everything back up on their feet. He cut the grass for the school. He's there to coach the football team, not to be maintenance. It's a leadership problem at that school. It's not Deion. It's a leadership problem. The leaders at the school are shucking and jiving. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to be good businessmen. Deion Sanders was trying to bring them a TV deal. From what I heard, the president of Jackson State University turned down that TV deal. That's dumb because they would have brought more money and more revenue to the school. This is crazy. This is foolishness. But they calling Deion Sanders a sellout. Give me a break. This is bullshit. He's not no sellout. He's tried to help the community, was there for 3 years, brought all these programs to the school. Y'all still call him a sellout. Y'all don't speak nothing about Brett Favre and that situation, where he stole money from the people, from black people. Brett Favre did. And then to try to build a stadium for his daughter, volleyball stadium. And then he said, oh, can it be traced back to me? Brett Favre's a real traitor. He's a real sellout. But you don't want to call that. The people at Jackson State University, the leaders there, not the students, but the leaders, they're the real sellouts because they have a mentality of, I'm not going to give black people the best and the brightest. And that's a problem I have with some of these quote unquote elders. I call them olders, not elders. Elders are going to build something for the generation. Olders is just, I want to get me and mine. You go get yours. That's wrong. Yeah, some of them Uncle Tom olders. I got me and mine. That's all I'm going to get. The hell with y'all. I'm like, well, that's a problem. You're going to die anyway. It's crazy. You can't do that. You got to pass things on to the next generation. But let's hear what the great Dr. Umar Johnson has to say about Deion Sanders, and then we're going to give our final thoughts on these topics as a whole. Let's hear from the great Dr. Umar Johnson.
Been texting me about this all week.
Talk to me about Deion, Dr. Umar.
Mind you, before you get into it, Charlemagne gave Donkey today to people that will criticize.
I know. That's right. And I'm coming right at it.
Let's go.
I'm coming right at it.
Let's go.
More lashes.
I'm coming right at more lashes. When Deion Sanders stood against Colin Kaepernick's protest in 2016, I branded him a Negro peon.
He did?
Yes, he did. He said he did. I saw him say it out of his mouth on an interview. He said he should not have taken that knee. It was wrong. Deion Sanders. I put him in the Negro peon camp because he didn't stand with Colin Kaepernick. When I heard Deion Sanders was taking the job, I said, okay, I'm going to give him his black pass back. Because here you are, one of the top 5 greatest athletes, arguably the greatest football player ever, including Tom Brady. Deion could go down as greater than. You go to Jackson State, HBCU. That's impressive. Now I hear all of a sudden you might be leaving.
So he's leaving.
Oh, he's going.
Oh, he's going. Stay with me. He's wrong. But I have 2 levels of wrong. I got a low level and I got a high. I'll explain them to you quickly. My low level. If Deion told the administration and the students and the players at Jackson State that I'm taking his job, but I need y'all to know If something better comes along, as soon as it comes along, I may be leaving.
He did say that.
He said that.
If he was that transparent, I didn't see that.
I played the clip the other day. He said it on 60 Minutes. He said that.
No, he said he may be leaving. He did not say he was leaving after 3 years.
No, he said that if a Power 5 school comes along, I have to entertain it. I would be a fool not to. And Deion has Deion has always been transparent and open about what his goals were.
That is not, no, I disagree with you. He told them if it comes his way, he would have to entertain it. He never said I would leave you that soon. He never said I can be gone in 3 years.
What does it matter, though? His contract was
I'm going to tell you why it matters. I'm about to tell you right now why it matters. Because he damn wrong. Now, if he told them, if I'm going to go back and study some more, but from what I seen him say, he was not that direct. But if he was, and that's not what I saw, so we disagree there. But if he was, he's still wrong, but it's a low level because at least you was transparent and you gave him informed consent. Mm-hmm. They knew you could leave at any time.
That's right.
Okay? Still wrong. I'm explaining in a minute. Now, if he didn't tell them that, okay, and I'm hearing from people who know athletes on that team that they were not told it that way.
They weren't listening.
And they're upset.
Because he said that on 60 Minutes.
Okay? He didn't say it that way, Charlamagne. I saw that.
He did.
He did not. No, he didn't. Now, if he did not do it that way, that automatically means that Deion Sanders used, abused, and exploited HBCU Jackson State just to be given an opportunity to show predominantly white institutions that he could coach. If he only used them as a stepping stone to getting a job at a white college, he was dead wrong. Now, let me tell y'all why this is bigger than football. Mm-hmm. What case is the Supreme Court reviewing right now? Right now, the
case against black, what is it, for black students in colleges?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. The U.S. Supreme Court right now is reviewing whether or not racially conscious admissions in higher education are unconstitutional. And guess who is bringing the suit? Asians. But guess who's funding the suit? White people with connections to the 6 conservative justices on the United States Supreme Court bench. So, what they're saying is Asians are discriminated against on the basis of the personality aspect of the admissions process at Harvard and the University of North Carolina, among other universities, by subjecting Asians to that personality assessment, which includes personality, background, socioeconomic status, culture.
Okay. So, we just heard Dr. Umar Johnson speak on issues of Deion Sanders, why he disagreed with them and everything. And Mr. Kidd Kluth, what are your thoughts on what Dr. Umar just stated?
I have to push back on Dr. Umar because I disagree with just about everything he had to say on that. Because what he's trying to do, he's trying to put the burden on Deion Sanders to solve the problems of HBCUs. And it's like, that's not on him. Some of these issues are going on before him and they'll go on after him. And it's like this. Yes, Deion became the face of HBCU football because what he set out to do, he did. He was trying to make players from HBCUs, not make them, but, draw up interest in HBCUs that they'll come play. And we've seen that happen. It was a movement. And that's what people don't understand with a movement. A movement doesn't stop. It takes one person to spark it. Once that person sparks it, whether they're there or not, the movement is going to keep moving. So what Deion did, as far as for the recognition of HBCUs in athletics and even institutionally, he sparked a change of perception and he sparked a new wave of interest because I'm going to use one example. At our school, Johnson C. Smith University, we have 3 potential NFL draft prospects at our school. One just declared, I think a week or 2 weeks ago. And we didn't have that in over maybe 30, 40, 50 years. And that happened within a year. Deion Sanders has been at Jackson State for 3 years. And I think they came last year. We had them, and they signed NIL deals. It's a name, image, and likeness deals. And they came to Johnson C. Smith. So, and also what they fail to mention is that Eddie George, football player for the Tennessee Titans, he played in the NFL for a decade and some change. He went to coach Tennessee University after Deion took the job. Also, we got former NFL coach Hugh Jackson, and I want you to play the rest of that interview because on that part, because Dr. Umar talks about that. You're gonna be able to hear what I say on that. Understand what I'm saying? So can you play that part? Because he goes into the part with NFL coaches and stuff coming in.
Most definitely. So we'll be right back. We're going to play a little clip of Mr. Dr. Umar Johnson, continuing about Deion Sanders and other issues about the NFL coaches here. So in 3, 2, 1, let's listen to Dr. Umar.
Culture, this, that, who you are, what you want to be. Asians are being penalized for the high test scores and grades. So what the Asians want and what the white folks who are funding the Asians want is they want the Supreme Court to say you cannot include race at all as a factor in higher education admissions. If they throw that out, if they say Harvard cannot use the personality assessment portion of the admissions process, the percentage of Asians that get accepted into PWIs goes up by 20%, and the percentage of black students will plummet by at least 50%. You know what that means? You are watching the gentrification of black children off of the PWI campus. How is this relevant to Deion Sanders? The reason I'm so personally disappointed in Deion is I thought he was there for a movement, not for money. Meaning, Deion Sanders, the coach of Jackson State, I foresaw a situation where Deion would hire other coaches, other retired black NFL greats to coach other HBCUs. In doing so, you attract our top tier high school athletes to come to HBCU. Stay with me. Stay with me. Football and back. You know, like I know, if you got top tier NFL greats coaching HBCUs, the athletes are coming just like they was coming for Deion. He showed you, Charlamagne.
Deion, though.
He showed
Dr.
you.
Umar.
And his other one's just as
one
great.
Of the most famous people ever.
And his other one's just as great. So listen.
Eddie George at Tennessee State.
That's one person. We talking about a system, not an individual. So Deion and these other coaches bring all these athletes from high school to play football, basketball, so forth. The revenue of the HBCU goes up, Envy. As a result of the revenue going up, Charlamagne, the schools got more money. They don't have to subject themselves to closure. They don't have to subject themselves to being dependent on white money. You got HBCUs at risk of being closed. I read something that said almost a half of them. A half may not survive the decade. So this was bigger than football. This was about the survival of the HBCU.
It's bigger than
Especially,
Deion,
no,
yes,
no,
it is. I think
no. Stop trying to give celebrities a pass, Charlamagne.
No, you're blaming the individual.
I'm not blaming him.
The issue.
I'm blaming black men for not being men.
But you know what?
Oh, Lord. Mr. Kidd Kluth, what are your thoughts on what Dr. Umar just stated on Deion Sanders and the coaching?
I think he took it too far to a level where they need to get to, because I think it's like this. Deion Sanders can't affect all that change just by himself. What he's talking about from a standpoint of, like you said, administration. Yes, he can draw up more recruits and all that, but it's like this. The administration has to do their part too to keep these HBCUs funding right, and also the people have to do it, because I was listening to the Breakfast Club yesterday, and the woman said this, and she made a good point. She called it. She said, if you think about HBCUs, she said, a lot of people don't donate to them, so they're underfunded, and she said they're mismanaged. And also, another thing she said too is that HBCUs draw generally their highest revenue during homecoming weekend, and after that they don't make much money. And then there's another thing that Charlamagne said too, is that the states receive money for HBCUs funding, but some of them don't distribute it to the colleges. So it's a lot of layers going into that Dr. Umar, I think he unfairly blamed Deion Sanders for. Because, yes, Deion Sanders is responsible for the football team in the face of HBCUs. Yes, he became the face of it. But he cannot affect it from an administration standpoint. Because he doesn't, even when he was at his school, Prime Prep, he was the head coach and the founder, but he did not manage the day-to-day duties and run the school. The administration did that. Yes, he was on the board, but he found out a lot of this stuff later on. And see, that's why I have a problem with Dr. Umar. He's being unfair. And what he said, too, that's what he said about the NFL coaches and stuff. He's being unfair, too, with that. Because a former NFL coach for the Cleveland Browns and Oakland Raiders, Hugh Jackson, he coaches at Grambling State currently. And he brought in his former teammate from the Dallas Cowboys, Dennis Thurman. He's the defensive coordinator of the Jackson State. But I get this. We've had black people trying to coach HBCUs, but traditionally those jobs don't go to former NFL players. They typically go to alumni. They go to different people that play at HBCUs. That's like what college was it? He played them. That's one of their biggest rivals in the conference, the SWAC conference. His name is, I can't remember the college right now, but Eddie Robinson Jr. He's been critical of Deion when he's been in because he says Deion is not SWAC. So SWAC is their conference because Deion didn't go to HBCU and he hadn't been there long enough. But Deion is dominated. So it's like, this is what I talk about with our community. It's like, why are you always finding a way to tear somebody down? Yes, he may have not went to an HBCU, but the fact that somebody of his stature came and coached the team and tried to empower it and change the culture around it, you should applaud that, whether you like Deion personally or not. And that's the problem I have, is that everybody keeps on pointing the fingers saying this and that, but nobody's really willing to do anything. Because a lot of these HBCUs, a lot of times, they try to go the hard way.
I agree.
They try to go coaches so they get the cheapest coach.
Yep. I feel like also a lot of the time it's a leadership problem. It's a leadership problem when it comes to these HBCUs and everything, and why they're not getting funding and why no changes are being done. I disagree with Umar Johnson in terms of Deion Sanders because he thinks all this change can be done by one man. That's not true. Deion Sanders was hired to be a head coach of Jackson State University, and he was there for 3 years. And for 3 years, they dominated, and they got a championship, and they had college game day at their school. He did his job, and then some. He paid half of his money to get their football program start running up, to get back on its feet. He did his job, and then some. But you got Dr. Umar Johnson. Oh, no, he had massive changes and had more coaches. And he told the people there, hey, listen, if a better opportunity comes along, I'm going to take it. I'll be a fool not to. And Charlamagne the God called him out on that. Dr. Umar out on that. And that's my thoughts on the whole Deion Sanders situation. And so, Mr. Kidd Kluth, closing out, what are your final thoughts on the whole topic and issues in regards to all these topics that we discussed? Your quick final thoughts.
Well, on that, I just echo your sentiments. I couldn't have said it any more better than what you said.
Yep. I mean, hey, all I'm saying is, hey, all Deion Sanders and everything. I agree with Dr. Umar on many of the issues except for Deion Sanders and a couple of other ones. Because when it comes to these HBCUs, it's a leadership problem, not a one-person problem, a leadership problem. It's the establishment leadership, these bootlicking Uncle Tom Negroes, who feel that they just need to keep their power and hold on to their power and not give a damn about the next generation. That's the problem. It's not Deion Sanders' problem. It's the leadership problem. That's my final thoughts on that. And we're closing out this episode of the Black Evolution Podcast. Tune in for more episodes. We're going to talk about many different topics that no one even dare talk about. It's the Black Evolution. We're signing off. Listen to this outro music. Tune in.